Please proceed.
We're going to recall Heather Coyle.
Just have a seat. You're still under oath.
All right, Ms. Coyle, you did not leave the building after you testified last,
No.
and I caught you outside, and we had a chance to talk again. Correct?
We did.
Okay. The last thing that Mr. Boyne had asked you about was drawing to your attention the time of the email that you sent back to Ross on the morning of June the 18th.
Yes.
Okay. He had emailed you the day before, and you returned an email, the last email to him at 9:35 that morning of the 18th.
Yes.
The very morning, the very day, you figured out.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, what I want to know is that in the 28 months since Cooper Harris died, has anyone from the Cobb County Police Department ever contacted you?
No.
Has anyone from my office contacted you in those 28 months?
Yes.
When did we contact you?
It was shortly after everything happened. Like I think it was like 2 weeks after.
When is the first time anyone from the Cobb County District Attorney's Office contacted you?
It was September of this year.
Month before that.
Yes, 2016.
All I have.
Ms. Coyle, were you aware that the police had actually obtained your email and seen that there was no response from the defendant to your email that day?
No.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anything further?
No, ma'am.
No. So, but you can leave. We'll see how long that lasts. Thank you. I do believe, though, you are free to go.
Thank you. We'll call Billy Kirkpatrick. Good morning, Billy. Please tell us who you are and where you live, sir.
I'm Billy Kirkpatrick, and I live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Okay, and you've been here. You've been here all morning, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and are you nervous?
Slightly.
Okay. All right. I want to get into several things involving your relationship with Ross. But first of all, I want these folks to know who you are. So if you would, please tell these people a little bit about your background, kind of, well, first of all, what you do, sort of your education and work experience, please.
Okay. Currently, I run an agency called West Alabama AIDS Outreach in Tuscaloosa. We serve low-income individuals living with HIV/AIDS in the 10-county area. I also teach a class at the University of Alabama called Nonprofit Administration. My bachelor's degree, all 3 degrees are from the University of Alabama. Bachelor's degree is in psychology, my master's is in counseling, and my PhD is in a joint program in public administration and management.
All right. And just a little bit about the kind of work that you have done in the years that you've known Ross. Where have you worked?
Yeah, my first job out of college, about the time that I met Ross, was at an elementary school. And I was an in-school intervention specialist, which meant I worked with children with behavior problems. After that, I worked at a program through the University of Alabama called Brewer Porch Children's Center, and I had several programs, but each program was for children with diagnosed mental and behavioral disorders. After that, I had a short stint at the VA with veterans working with PTSD, and since then, I have worked at West Alabama AIDS Outreach. But in the past decade, I've also been on the board of Child Abuse Prevention Services, a nonprofit United Way agency in Tuscaloosa.
Okay. And so I want to go ahead and move into a little bit about some other things that you do or involved in outside of your professional career, specifically as relates to men's group and your church. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. It has always been my contention that sexual sin, especially in the South, or sexual temptations, are something that we don't talk about in the church. If somebody stood up and said, I'm struggling with alcohol or I'm struggling with something else, everybody's kind of compassionate to that. But if men talk about struggling with sexual issues, it's kind of taboo. And so at my church, Capstone Church in Tuscaloosa, I've been very open about asking men to discuss those things because it's the isolation that kills. And so we had several men that have been honest and brave and discussed their issues with the church. And there's a group called Capstone Recovery that for about 3 years I co-facilitated with men with different levels of sexual issues. Some guys were just occasionally struggling with watching pornography, and some men in that group were having constant affairs. We're trying to work on that. So we've done that for quite a while at the church.
Okay. All right. I want to now move into how it is that you know Ross. Now, we heard from Michael Simmons earlier this morning, and you and Michael are still close friends.
Very close, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I think the jury's got a little bit of an idea about how y'all all met and whatnot, but if you could, just real briefly, tell us about how you became friends with Ross and sort of over the years how your relationship has progressed.
Absolutely. Well, there's an apartment complex called Country Club Apartments in Tuscaloosa. I lived there. Ross moved in with our other friend, who's close, James Jones. Eventually, we were all roommates at some point, and we've been incredibly close since. Ross, in that time, I'm from North Carolina. He has traveled with me and my son on several occasions, either for Christmas with my family, weddings of my cousins, those kind of things. Ross he did a lot of work for me at West Alabama AIDS Outreach as our IT specialist, mostly because I could pay him less while he was in school than I could anybody else, but he did a fantastic job. We went to church together. We were in the same small group together when they were in Tuscaloosa, and just lived a lot of life together, a lot of football. And I will say there was a period of my life before I got remarried where Ross and Lana were my social group. So all of my social avenues were with them.
Were you so you were friendly with Ross, so y'all were friends well before he and Leanna got married?
Yes, sir.
Right. Were you in the wedding?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And he was in my wedding, yes.
So just to kind of follow up on what you said Ross and Leanna were your social group.
Yes.
Now, obviously, there can be time when they have moved to Marietta.
Mhm.
But if you could, just very briefly explain to the jury sort of the nature of y'all's dynamic of y'all's relationship over the years, the kind of things y'all would do together, and kind of time you would spend together.
Yeah, they actually got a house in Moundville, which was maybe 15 minutes from my house. So, as you may know, we love our football in Tuscaloosa, and so we watched a lot of football together, hung out together. I was actually getting my PhD while he was getting his degree in MIS. So we talked a lot about school together. We shared a lot of jokes, watched the same TV shows, movies, just were together quite a bit.
Right. And then when they moved to Marietta, did you and Ross remain friends?
We did, yes.
Right. How would y'all typically talk and communicate once he moved out of Tuscaloosa?
Over the phone. Some emails, but mostly over the phone, yes, sir.
And did you have a chance to continue to visit with him either in Marietta or Tuscaloosa or North Carolina?
Several times, yes. We weren't able to do a North Carolina trip after that because then he was working. It was a little easier when he was in school.
Right.
But we'd go there and watch football games in Georgia. They'd come visit. Anytime they came to visit, we were together. Several times I'd be in Georgia with them.
And the jury's heard a little bit about this already, but Ross's parents still live in Tuscaloosa.
Yes, sir.
All right. Leanna's got some family there. Her mother's. So after they moved, is it fair to say they would still have reasons to come back to Tuscaloosa and visit?
Yeah.
And y'all would hang out?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's then just kind of slide into when they found out they were going to have a child.
Okay.
All right. Tell us about whatever you can recall from sort of that period when Leanna became pregnant.
Well, they had talked about it for a long time, and they had really struggled with that, and it was something that created a lot of pain in them. We talked about that extensively. So when they actually got pregnant, now the day they told me I was the first person they told. I think they were just trying to be sweet. I know I was in the top 5, okay? But they knew that I was that invested in their lives, and they knew that I knew it was that important to them. And so they were very excited to tell me. I still remember where I was when they told me. And they were very excited, and then they were kind of in that whole planning phase from that point on, how to make the best life for their child.
After Cooper was born, they're living in Marietta.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next almost 2 years, did you still have opportunity to spend time with
Yes.
Ross
Yes, sir.
and Leanna and Cooper?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you could sort of break that down for these folks and let them know when and where and what kind of quality time you spent with them.
Okay. There may have been 8 or 9 times that I was around them. The first one was an Alabama-Michigan game, and so I went to Marietta to watch that with them. And I was there Friday night, Saturday, left Sunday. And Cooper was, I think, maybe a few weeks old, he was he was tiny. Because I took him outside, and Lena got mad at me for taking him outside. But we had a lot of time together. I got to see Leanna and Cooper interact. I got to see Ross and Cooper interact. Just had a great time. There were several other times they would visit. I might see them at church, and Ross is walking around with Cooper at church. There was another game that we watched together when they came back to Tuscaloosa, and they stayed with her mom. Cooper was actually very, very sick that night, and Ross, in my opinion, just was incredibly loving and doting. Some men are not that good with their kids during the football game, but he didn't really care about anything else. Cooper was in the playpen and screaming, and Ross got him and just held him and comforted him. And there was a few times at his parents' house, he was taking care of Cooper and hanging out with him. And just times like that, many, many moments where I get to be with them and watch those interactions and spend a good bit of quality time with them.
Do you believe that Ross was a loving father?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
You have some knowledge that Ross was dealing with sexual sins in his life.
Yes, sir.
When did you become aware of that?
Around 2010.
And to the best of your recollection, just kind of tell these folks sort of how you came to know about those matters.
Okay. Well, as close as we were, there are things that I'm going to know about. Certain issues that I'm going to know about in his life, and it kind of came out through discussions with him. And Leanna had made some comments that she had found out some things he was doing. At that point, I wasn't really sure of the extent. I don't know. I didn't know if he was watching pornography only. I didn't know what it was. So from that point, he and I would have conversations. And like I told you, just like I do with church, this is something that I think is much more healthy to be addressed openly. And so he and I would discuss it, and then it kind of became clear, exactly what his issues were. And so I think around that time, he asked me to be his Covenant Eyes partner, which is a software that allows me to see any questionable sites that he looks at. And then we kind of went from there. So we did that for a few years. And then, as often happens, as he moved and as my life was changing, I wasn't very consistent with that in terms of being a good accountability partner. And then he kind of, in 2013, kind of re-upped that and said, let's get back on this. I'm still needing some help with this. And so we kind of went from there.
Just so these folks will understand, the accountability partner, you said it was software. Is this some software that Ross brought to you for you to put on your computer or for him to put on his?
It sends me an email where I have to confirm that I'm okay being an accountability partner. And then from that point on, once it's confirmed, it sends it to me, like whatever questionable sites that he looks at, then I'm then privy to that information.
And it's fair to say Ross was continued to visit highly inappropriate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You told us they then, of course, moved to Marietta, and then you said sometime around 2013 that there was additional discussion about kind of re-upping it or sort of getting back into addressing these problems.
Yes, sir.
I want to show you a couple of emails. 182, 183. See if you go into those.
Yes, sir.
All right. Are those emails between you and Ross, kind of regarding this subject matter?
Yes, sir.
And what are the date of those emails?
March 16, 2013.
182, 183.
No objection.
Admitted.
So if you would, number 182 is an email from Ross. Subject is, "Hey buddy," to March 16, 2013. If you would, just read what that email is.
Hey, man, just wanted to give you a heads up on something. Over the past 2 months or so, I've really been having a struggle with pornography, and yes, Leanna is aware. We're going to start a well-recommended Christian-based marriage counselor who specializes in this type of issue. I'm resetting you up on my covenant eyes and ask that you check this every day or at least once every few days. Please do not hesitate to question my actions, and feel free to report to Leanna after me and you talk. This is something I need serious accountability over. Thanks, buddy, and don't worry, Leanna and I are fine.
And you responded to him that same day. Would you read your response?
I'm really proud of you for getting into counseling. I've never known how you want me to address the report I get from Covenant Eyes, but I'll contact you each time there's an issue. Anytime you're struggling, feel free to call or text me. I can talk and pray with you. Again, I'm really proud of you for getting help. What are you guys doing 2 weekends from now?
This didn't work for Ross, did it?
No, sir.
Did you have any knowledge of the fact that Ross was actually instant messaging with different social app platforms with women that he was not married to?
I didn't know the specifics, but when the Covenant Eyes sends me the report, there were sites such as Adult Friend Finder, Ashley Madison, and Adult Sex Finder. So I never addressed those as I should have with them, but I had some inkling of that, yes, sir.
What about actual trysts or intimate hookups with women in his vehicle or at his apartment?
No, sir.
Were you his best friend?
Yes.
I'm surprised he didn't tell you.
No, sir.
Why not?
Given the nature of our relationship, and he knew what my expectations were for him, and it was already hard for him to talk to me about these things when we talked in person, I think he would have been humiliated, and he knew that I would have been disappointed in him.
Are you disappointed in Billy?
Extremely, yes, sir.
Did you know that in May of 2014 that he actually engaged the services of a prostitute?
No, sir.
Are you surprised he didn't tell you about that?
No, sir.
Are you disappointed in him?
Yes, sir.
you've heard a little bit about Ross's personality. I think you're probably in as good a position as anybody to put your 2 cents in about any of his quirks or eccentricities. Is there anything that you think these people should know sort of about the way he was?
Jay, calling for a narrative, Judge, about what he thinks they should know about him.
I could rephrase that. Tell us about his personality.
Ross is very unique. I love Ross, but he is often a massive dork. He is very curious. He is always looking for just new information that is just senseless facts. He has moments where he is an incredible friend. As when he did work for me, he did amazing work. He just, but it's sometimes very difficult to put your finger on just his uniqueness. Very unique guy.
How was he in public?
He never shuts up. He will go to a Mexican restaurant and suddenly he is perfectly fluent in Spanish with the waitress. If there is a guitar anywhere within 20 yards, he's going to find it and play it, like not just play it, but like play it in your face. He loved being the center of attention. In fact, one time he and I went to a restaurant, Hooligans in Tuscaloosa, for lunch, and I knew more people than he did in that restaurant, and it pissed him off. But incredibly friendly, very, very social, and always the life of the party.
Was he was he an emotional person? And by that I mean in the sense that he often exhibit highs and lows of emotion. Why do you say that?
It just really didn't seem to matter what the context was. He just was kind of even keel all the time. When he was in school, and the degree he got is a very difficult degree to be an undergrad degree. Even in his school stress, he was even keel. He was actually doing the mail at UA when the firecracker blew his eardrum out. And he would come in, because I worked at UA, so I'd see him when he was doing the mail. And he's in a lot of pain, still even keel. I know there are times when, before Leanna, he's living at home, didn't really have a car, didn't have much of a career prospect. Obviously, all that changed for him, but before that, even in those moments, he was still just even keel all the time.
I want to ask you about if you were friendly with him or living with him at the time that he was working for the Tuscaloosa Police Department.
We're very close. I wasn't living with him.
Okay.
But, I remember when because he was doing the parking at UA, and then he was doing the mail at UA, so then he got the job as a dispatcher, which at that point was a huge step up for him. He was very proud of that job.
Did you ever know Ross, or have you known Ross over the years, to use police jargon or police lingo?
I've never not known him to use police lingo.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
In any particular context?
Yeah, we know he's going to do it, and so we're going to make fun of him for it. So if we're discussing some crime, I'll be like, that's a 229. And he goes, Billy, that's a 182. And I'm like, dude, I'm just kidding, man. But he would always correct it. And he would randomly just, talk about crimes, but he would do it in code.
So, talked a little bit about your knowledge that Ross was dealing with some sexual sins. Did you later become aware that that had impact on Ross's relationship with his wife? Okay. Tell us what you knew about that.
You know, like I said, when I first heard about it, I wasn't really clear of what it was or what the extent was. But the three of us had a really open relationship. We would talk about those things. And then I learned it was, from what I knew at that point, was him having actual communication with women over the internet. She was obviously devastated by that. And then so, they talked to me about when they would talk to our pastor at church about that. And, the pastor at church at that time, this is in Tuscaloosa, told Ross that, most marriages don't survive this twice. There was a point also, even after they had moved to Georgia, or they came back into town and they were at my house, and there was three of us sitting on the couch, and Lena was just talking about her disappointment in these things with him, and just really questioning whether she could stay with him or not at that point.
You're aware that he actually had some physical problems as well that he was trying to address?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
Low testosterone was a major issue for them. I think it was a self-esteem killer for both of them, just based on what they've said. It made it hard for them to be intimate, and it was a real struggle for them.
Have you ever known Ross in any setting to speak about his son in any way conveying to you malice or hatred?
No, sir. Exactly the opposite.
Thank you, Billy.
Good afternoon, morning, almost afternoon. You said that you had a very open relationship with the defendant, correct? But then when we talked about whether he would confess to you, whether he'd gone to a prostitute or things, you said he wouldn't talk to you about that because he'd be humiliated.
Yep.
Okay. But when was this conversation that you had with the defendant and Leanna on the couch about his issues?
I'm not sure the year, but it was, like I said, after they moved to Georgia.
Okay. And she actually said she didn't know if she could stay with him. Okay. What did the defendant say?
Nothing. It was an embarrassing conversation for him. He didn't have much to say on that.
He sat there. Okay. Is that unusual for him? To sit there and be quiet and not say a word?
In that context,
Yes.
I didn't take it as unusual at all.
Okay, so he's gregarious and fun-loving and all this on one side, and then he's got another side that just doesn't want to talk?
This is very typical of sexual issues. It's embarrassing. So regarding that, he wouldn't want to talk about it. The things he wants to talk about are things that he can brag about.
He still talked to you about his pornography and things like that, correct?
To me, yes.
Yes.
But he wasn't gregarious about that at all.
Okay.
That was a difficult conversation for us to have, but he had it with me.
Okay, and you wanted him to be open with you and honest with you and things like that. And you talked about the fact that you noticed these adult friend finder sites and things like that. And you didn't talk to him because you didn't want to humiliate him, correct?
No, first of all, for my part, that was my responsibility, and I dropped the ball.
Right.
He is responsible for his actions, but if I take on the responsibility and the commitment to be his covenant partner, then I should have done a better job. I think my issue was, at that point, I feel like I was ruining the marriage of my best friend.
Did you say that you thought you didn't want to humiliate him, though? That's one of the things, because it was humiliating. You didn't want to talk to him about it.
No,
That didn't play into it?
No, not at all.
Okay. Did you think about Leanna and Cooper at this time? And maybe talking to him about it, if he was going out and seeking prostitutes out and looking for adult friend finder and things like that?
Well, I had no evidence he was with prostitutes. All I know was what I saw on the website. And I should have thought about leaving Cooper. That was my bad again.
And these were his actions, though. He's a grown man
Absolutely.
choosing to do these things.
Yes. And I was a grown man that committed to be his accountability partner. So for my part, I did not do what I should have done.
Okay. So, 2010, you became his covenant eyes partner, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was after he got busted by Leanna, right? Okay. So he didn't come to you until he gets in trouble, right? 2013, again, he gets busted by Leanna. Then he comes to you and tells you, I've got a problem with pornography, right?
That's not the extent of the conversations at all. No, sir.
Okay.
So if he gets busted in 2010, then from 2010 to 13, we're having intermittent discussions about this. You know, he's in my office at work, we're driving around, we're talking about these things, right? Now, I still don't feel like I've addressed it as aggressively as I should have, but it wasn't in bad times that he was just doing that. Sometimes it was just normal times when he was struggling and we would discuss it.
Do you think that if he was going as far as to do things like behavior of engaging in sexual acts with strangers anonymously and in public settings and messaging underage girls, minors, committing criminal acts, do you think you could have stopped him if he'd gone that far?
I don't think I could have stopped him from anything.
Okay. And you would agree that the Ross Harris you knew is not a person who would be doing those type of things, correct?
No, I wouldn't say that either. I can't peg him with a broad stroke. I can tell you this. I saw him struggle with sexual sin. At the same time, I saw him being a tremendous friend to me and a tremendous father.
And a tremendous husband too, right?
At times, yes. Obviously not always, but there were times, yes. He was very loving and very sacrificial for his wife.
Yet he continued to abuse that relationship.
Yeah. Which is
And
very
lie to her?
typical of sexual issues, yes, sir.
Okay. And how often have you met with the defense on this case, and how long did y'all prep for your answers here today?
Met with him a few times.
And
But
when
my,
you-
but my answers are my answers. I want to be clear on that.
I understand that. And you met with the defense, and he asked you about his personality, the defendant's personality.
Yes.
And you were able to rattle off several key statements that we've heard in this courtroom several times. Did you go over that with the defense, these several key personality traits?
In a very minimal sense, but those key personality traits are things I think anybody that knew him for any period of time would pick up on.
Right. Like you said, he was very, he wanted to be the most popular guy there. And you said he got mad at you one time when you knew more people than him.
Yes.
He wanted to be the center of attention.
Yep.
He was very worried about perception. You would agree with that?
Yep. So, which would be consistent with what anybody else that knows him for 5 minutes would say.
Absolutely. And you said that he even went to, when he would go to a Mexican restaurant, he would basically adopt speaking in Spanish and start talking like that, correct? Basically, whoever he is around, he is going to try to assimilate with them and be who they want him to be, correct? To become friends with them.
Yep.
Did you know that in 2013 he was actually saying he was in love with another girl, an 18-year-old at that time?
Did not know that.
Safe to say, as close as you were, there was a lot you didn't know about the defendant, correct? Would you at least agree with that?
I don't know what I know and what I don't know. I mean, I don't know all the evidence in this trial. Obviously, there are things I don't know, but there's a lot that I do know. And I don't think there's a big jump between what I did know and some of the things that you're insinuating he did know.
Did you know that he said he needed an escape from his son 10 minutes before locking him in the car?
I'm going to object. I don't, that's not accurate.
Did you know he said, I love my son-in-law, but we both need escapes 10 minutes before he locked the child in the car?
Did not know that.
Did you know he continued that conversation about 1 minute before locking that child in the car?
Did not know that.
You have-
Nothing further.
Did you know he was planning to take Cooper on a cruise?
I did not know that. No, sir.
That's not something we talked about, was it? Thank you.
Nothing further, Judge.
Will we approach Judge?
I warned y'all, I knew y'all, so y'all could make plans and everything like that. There'll be a lunch shortly. Those of you who'd like to leave are welcome to do so. Those of you who want to remain and have lunch, Miss Reese will have it for y'all and take good care of you too, as she always does. And your bailiffs and everybody here. It's just an amazing staff of folks that are taking care of y'all, and I appreciate them. So, what are the rules? Close your notepads, keep an open mind, don't discuss the matter. Enjoy your afternoon. We'll resume at 8:30 in the morning. As I've said word to you, I anticipate Thursday and Friday will be days that will be in court. Our regular hours will be back on track. As we all know, getting folks here and scheduling everybody can be a challenge. It's been a challenge for both sides. I've been doing trial work, court work, and 38 years of my life, 34 as a judge, and everything's being done to get the witnesses here. It's not a fault of anything other than just planning the logistics. So I want you to know that everyone's working really, really hard to get this case to you, get it presented to you in orderly and proper manner, using time and resources properly, and frankly, y'all's time is one of the resources involved in the case. And that's when they let me, and they've been real good keeping me in the loop of what's going on. When I knew it was going to be a short day today, I wanted y'all to know for your planning purposes, because I'm sure you have things to do. So I will see you all at 8:30 in the morning, and have a very good evening.
Let's all rise for the jury. Please watch your steps going down. I'll get it.
Okay, let's all have a seat.
Please be seated.
I have an outstanding order request. We might as well use this time for some cleanup work and getting things in better shape for moving forward. I'm thinking forward to the charge conference. Of course, it's premature to have a charge conference. I don't intend to do that. But I felt like it would be a good idea to go ahead and share with you some of the work that Jen and I have done preliminarily. And I say I loosely. She's been doing the work. But anyway, I need to get an order on defendant's motion 26? 29. So she's going to get an order on that. You all asked for a written order, so she's going to work on that. We'll get that done before she leaves. That'll be something that I'll have for y'all in the next couple of days. I'm going to need a verdict form, so we'll be working on that. And I'll get you a proposed verdict form before she leaves. So that's something I would need to do. It's not cast in stone, it's a working document, if you will. She has, the Davis V request charge you don't have, so I'll give you a copy of that. Because I want to give them a written charge, except for, some of the instructive things. They don't need a written copy of that. But what I've got prepared is a document that shows where you both have a charge, the same request, and then where you don't. And I think it might be valuable to share a copy of that with both sides. Does anyone have a problem with that?
No, Your Honor.
Jim, you did a copy. How many copies? Is there a point person? Do you need one or all three of y'all?
I think-
Both sides going to do it?
I think one copy for the state would be fine.
It's going to be one copy work for y'all?
We can share.
I'll get that done. I'll work on it there. y'all want a copy of the whole packet we've done?
Sure.
Just another 50 pages for your light reading, you're doing it? Or more? Okay, yeah, we'll do a packet for each other, that'll include the cover page. Really don't know that there's much else to talk about from my end, except to give you all the benefit of the work that we've been doing. Like I said, it's premature, but if you're both asking for the same thing, and the language is the same, when we do get to the charge conference, we don't have to spend our time on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Unless there's a problem with that approach. And I'm more than open to hearing why that's not a good approach. It strikes me as the obvious approach, but, obvious often isn't so very obvious. So I'll give you the benefit of that, and then when we get to it, we can see if that's a good way to go. Is there anything the state needs to raise before we break for the day?
No, Your Honor.
What about the defense?
I don't think so, Judge. I think we're in good shape right now.
All right, everybody have a good afternoon. Thank you for being here.